Today, I'll be speaking on how to make a good scientific PowerPoint presentation. So there's no financial interest. I've used some of my images are from Google and the other sources, but that's only for academic purposes. There is no financial interest. So there are around 300 million PowerPoint users in the world, and they do 30 million presentations each day. About a million presentations are going on right now, but 50% of them are unbearable. And since the brain does not pay attention to boring things, these presentations, they result in audiences like these. So why are these audiences bored? Because they don't understand the message and they feel they are wasting their time. This occurs mainly because of lack of significance, structure, simplicity, and rehearsal. So let us see how to avoid this and let us make the world a better place. So basically, why do you present? Is this just to pass the information, or your boss has asked you to do so, or you want to create some meaning? So you should know the purpose of your presentation, and you should know the significance and the purpose of your presentation. What is the subject and why it matters to you? So even before you start preparing for your presentation, think about the topic of your presentation, how much time is allotted to you, and who is going to listen to your presentation. So think about these three factors. They're extremely important. Then start gathering the information and decide about the content of your presentation. Ask yourself, what does my audience need to hear from me? So you have to take into consideration the need of the audience, and then only you can deliver a good presentation. So based on this consideration, sketch a basic outline of your presentation. Think how it is going to look like. What are the main headers of your presentation? How the information will flow from one slide to another? What are the important key points? And finally, what is the key message that your audience should take home? Then think about the structure of your presentation. Structure is how you place the building blocks of your story. So make your presentation simple and interesting by following these PowerPoint basics. So these are slide design, font, color, layout, and style. So let us talk about the slide design first. So what should be the slide design? So which design you should use? So whether it should be ready-made template that is available in the PowerPoint, or you want to design your own template. So which template to use? So create your own design. Try different combinations. Let your creativity flow. Then after deciding about your slide design, think about the font. What font you should use? So always use good fonts. Now, what do you mean by good fonts? So there are two types of fonts. One is serif font and the other one is sans serif font. Now, what do you mean by the serif font? Serifs are nothing but the structural details or the decorative flourishes that are present at the end of the letters or the symbols or the alphabets. And the sans serif font does not have these structural details. Okay, so the serif fonts, they are better in the textbooks or the websites, but the sans serif fonts are better for presentations. Now, what are the types of, or what are the examples of the fonts? The serif font, the Times New Roman font, is example of the serif font, whereas Arial is the example of the sans serif font. So serif font takes longer to read because of the structural details. So these are the structural details which are present here. So because of these, the serif font takes longer to read. For example, Times New Roman, Courier, and Didot. And this sans serif font, it is easier to read. For example, Arial, Comic Sans, and Trebuchet. So this is an example of the sans serif font. Again, this is an example of a sans serif font, and Times New Roman is an example of the serif font. Some fonts, they look super in boldface. For example, Arial versus Arial bold, Comic Sans versus Comic Sans bold, Trebuchet versus Trebuchet bold. Then what should be the type size? So type size should be 18 points or longer, and references can be in 14 point. But for your titles or for your headers, you can use a 36 point or 28 point. And for your sub points or points which are not very important, you can use a smaller font size. Avoid using all capital letters because it is really hard to read. Many presenters, they have a habit of using capital letters, but it's really difficult if you have everything in capitals. So it is better to switch to the sentence code. Then after deciding your font, then think about the color. So colors are nice. So play with colors. Find your like. Flat colors are beautiful and contrast is your friend. Then think about the color palette. Now, what do you mean by the color palette? So color palette is nothing but it is a group of colors which gives theme to your presentation. If you are using a ready-made template from the PowerPoint, then the color palette is present in that particular PowerPoint. But if you are using your own design, then you have to think about the color palette and then you have to choose the colors. So you should always try different combinations and then the colors which are best suited, only those colors they should be chosen for your presentation. Then there are some color palettes which are available for free. So you can use these color palettes from the internet. Then these color palettes, they give a theme to your presentation and it all comes together with the theme. Now, which background should be used? So dark letters against a light background work, and dark letters against a light background are best for small rooms and for teaching. But the light letters against a dark background, they also work. Many experts feel that a dark blue or black background works best for talks in large rooms. Avoid backgrounds like these, which are visually distracting or they are difficult to read from. Always be consistent with the background that you use. Avoid red-green combinations because a large fraction of the human population is red-green colorblind. So lots of people cannot read this, and even if they could, it makes your eyes hurt. Other color combinations can be equally bad. So now you can see this color combination. So there's no proper contrast in this, and therefore it is difficult to read from. So view your slides in grayscale to ensure that there is adequate color contrast in each slide. Then after the color, think about the layout. So simplicity is the essence. Choose a very, very simple slide, and every slide should have a heading. The title is extremely important because title, in short, it tells about the slide. So, and title gives, the audience remembers the title of your slide. So it is extremely important that each slide has a title. So every slide should have a heading. Sentences are preferred if it is possible to make a statement. Then too much text is evil. Limit text box to no more than 2 lines each. Now, do you recognize this slide? So slides with multiple paragraphs like these, they have shown to significantly decrease the attention of the audience and thus the effectiveness of getting your message across. Since we cannot read and listen at the same time, this basically tells the audience to read directly off the slides and they stop listening to you. So let your slides breathe. It lets your audience listen to you. Do not use this slide as a manuscript because this is visually engaging. So break up your bullet points into separate slides. Prepare lists. Lists should not contain more than 3 items. It is often effective to unveil your list one by one. For example, talk about item number 1, then unveil item 2, then talk about item 2, and then unveil the item 3. Avoid sublists like these. Be generous with empty space. Limit the number of items on each slide. Each slide should just make 1 or 2 points. And then, now look at this slide. So there is so much text also, and there are so many graphs or so many images also. So if you try to cram too much into a slide and place things too close to the sides, they can get cut off if you're using a poor projector. In any case, the slide looks all cluttered and junky. Now look at this slide. There are so many graphs, and then when you are presenting, you just tend not to discuss about these graphs. So here's a simple rule for showing figures and images. If you're not going to take the time to explain it, then just get rid of it. Then after the layout, think about the style. Avoid fancy transitions between slides unless you have a good reason. For example, now when text appears like this, then we don't want the audience to be watching the animation. So use the appear effect. If you use the fancy animations, then the audience, they just stop listening to you and then they get busy in watching the animation. So do not use these fancy effects. But animations like these, they are very, very useful. Now here I'm just showing them the inflow and outflow of aqueous, and how effectively it is seen in this animation. Again, bearing of the circumlinear vessel which occurs in glaucoma. It is shown so beautifully in this animation. Or bayoneting sign. So this is the blood vessel which goes like this, and in glaucoma, it goes like this. So this bayoneting sign, this is also shown so effectively with this animation. So these animations which are useful, they should be shown, but do not show any fancy animations. Don't try to show too many slides. Often, less is more. Try your best to include a simple image on every slide because images say more than 1,000 words and they tend to catch people's attention. These images, they make the message more powerful. Now, if you have to use a picture, then there are some sites where you can have these free pictures. So this is Pixabay, then Unsplash, then Pixels. These all sites, they give you free pictures. But if you are using some pictures from some site, then you have to give the credits to the picture. This increases the credibility of your presentation. So never forget to give credits for any image that which is not yours and you are using from the internet. Then how should you present the information? The answer is infographics. Infographics are great. Infographics means graphs. So there are so many types of graphs which are available, and use the best that suits your presentation. So for example, I have to show this data. So this data, it consists of ocular injuries from June 2018 to September 2018. So there are 4 months, June, July, August, and September. And there are two types of injuries, penetrating injuries and blunt injuries. So this information I have to show in graphs. So I have prepared two graphs. This is first graph and this is second graph. Now I've given a title that this graph is bad. Yes, this is bad. Why? Because the color contrast is not good and these grid lines, they're unnecessary. They're diverting the attention of the audience. And if you see the numbers, then this is also not clear. And instead, look at this graph. The color contrast is good. Then the titles, they have good font. Everything is easily, we can understand what the author wants to say. So always make simple graphs. This is an example of a simple infographic, and this is an example of an awful 3D pie chart. But infographics like these, they are very useful for patient education and they should be used. So coming to spelling and grammar, proof your slides for spelling mistakes and grammatical errors. If English is not your first language, then get it checked by somebody else. Then rehearsal. So rehearsal is the key. So once your presentation is ready, stand in front of a mirror and then rehearse. Look at your posture also. So your posture also matters. So preparation is the key. Know your material well, practice it, and respect your time limits. Now, many times you have seen that this is very text-heavy slide, and the presenter has turned his back towards the audience and he's just reading word by word. So if this is how you present, then the audiences, they lose the interest in your presentation. So never do this. So always look at the audience and make an eye contact and use your body language also to deliver your presentation effectively. So it is very important to maintain an eye contact with your audiences and have an interactive presentation. So beyond PowerPoint, so I've just spoken about PowerPoint, but then there are many things which are beyond PowerPoint, like Canva. So I have shifted from PowerPoint to Canva now, and there are other apps like Prezi or Powtoon, which are also very, very effective for making a presentation. So to conclude, use an effective and strong closing. Your audience is likely to remember your last words. Use a conclusion slide to summarize the main points of your presentation and suggest future avenues of research. So the take-home message is, it is very, very easy to use PowerPoint badly, and it takes some work and forethought to use PowerPoint well. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Thank you.